Hello. Thank you to everyone who can join in today. As always, a big thank you to Team Rewatch because I know it's not always possible to get in on the live stream. My guest today is Gavin from Genre Books.
Hello.
And yes, Little Cat has already been at it. So we may even get to break to be proper chaos. And this is payback because the one time I went in early in her stream, so she was having fun just adding to the comments before we started. Then wanting to know, do we spam the chat yet? And I caught them early. We have Leslie. Hello.
Hello.
Ven saying hi. Oh, hey, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Okay. Oh, it was Kat. She was leading me astray. Yes, Ven.
You're so weak. Yeah.
Saying hi to Aaron. Hey, Lily. Welcome. And I think we have caught up. Woohoo! So even though they started playing a round. So today, and I do have my notes. I listened back to the message I sent because I'm like, I know we were going to talk about a ton of things. And
good, you can remind me.
Well, let's start with Horror Mayhem, which is just a few more days and finishing. Now, you've participated in Horror Mayhem before, correct?
Yeah, not briefly last year, and a little bit again this year. So it sort of happens twice a year because we end up doing it in October as well. So,
yeah. So, what did you read?
So I read something I read last year, or was one of my rare rereads, was The Rats by James Herbert. And I read that probably when I was about 13, 14 years old. I was reading a lot of sort of horror at that point, and James Herbert was always my favourite. Hadn't gone back to him at all in the intervening years. And last year I read The Rats, and in May I read Lair, which is the sequel.
Okay.
So it's a trilogy of animal attack books, all about these mutant rats. And I'll be reading the third one, the longest one, probably next event.
Nice. See, I've never heard of James Herbert. I watched your video and I know you mentioned that you were reading The Lair. See, I was big into Stephen King and Dean Koontz. Those were my horror reads, although mine were a bit before yours because are you in your 40s?
Just hanging on by the fingertips.
Well, see, I'm in my 60s. Hey, Alan. So yes,
Hello.
I was reading those horror people before, as they say, you were a twinkle in your pappy's eye. So yeah, I think I've heard of the name James Herbert, but I don't remember reading any of his work. So I've made a note of him now to check into that.
I think his Rats books are probably him at his most visceral. That and a book called The Fog.
I wonder if I've heard of The Fog. Now, Ven knows.
There's a film called The Fog, which isn't the same.
Okay, that might be it
film.
then.
Yeah.
And see, Ven knows him. He's going to read The Rats in July because Ven and Noah from the Bookworm do Don't Die July. And so he's reading that in July. And I think, nope, I didn't see. Then Alan, hey, great guest. Yes, he is indeed. So excited. Alan knows Herbert. Now, see, Alan and I think I maybe a few months older than him. The rest of you are all the babies of booktube. But yes, so Alan knows him, but I haven't come across, yes, Gavin is a youngster. And some even younger, like little Miss Kit Kat there.
It's all relative.
Oh, I stand corrected. Alan is older than me. I was 64. So we're
Yeah.
close. But
Oh yeah, James Herbert. I mean, he died fairly young, but he
mm,
was at the time really big. I would probably say in the UK he was on a par with Stephen King, probably
okay.
in terms of sales. Um, there was also, people like Clive Barker as well.
Now,
Ramsey
see him, I
Campbell, a
know.
bit older. But his books were everywhere, and they're
Mhm.
still in. They still have the new editions in. If you go somewhere like Waterstones, he's still like a big horror name. But yeah, I don't think he travelled all that well.
Mm.
But yeah, I did my. I've never read any Dean Koontz. I've read some Stephen King. I remember reading some at the time, and I didn't like it as much as Herbert, so I just went on
Really?
to Christine. So I think it was Christine, and it's just like it dragged a little bit for me.
Well, and to be fair, King's books do tend to get draggy. And I'm just looking here. Oh no, I've got it right here. Because I was planning to read The Shining for Horror Mayhem, and I found it again at the thrift store because a few years ago I unhauled all my fiction books because I wasn't really into rereading them. And I had no plans ever of being in front of a camera and doing something like YouTube. So it's like, no, but of course, my nonfiction book stayed. And I'm like, when I saw this at the thrift store, I mean, $4 for The Shining. It's in excellent condition, and I loved reading this. I mean, I started reading King when Carrie came out, and I kept reading King right up to Dolores Claiborne. Gunslinger was not my thing, but you're right. His books do tend to go on sometimes. And so now The Shining, because I had Jen on last week, Literary Love 123. So we're going to be buddy reading this in September. So The Shining is now off to the side. There's one book off my pile for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, and it's funny because now I have to be really careful about what King or any fiction I read because anything with animals just sets me off. And Gareth was laughing at me when he was on because we were talking about Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers. And I said, I almost didn't finish Mr. Mercedes because partway through the book, we of course have a dog, and you've got this demented killer. And so I read the last chapter, knew the dog was okay, and figured I'd fill in the rest. And Gareth's like, that book starts with a car plowing into a major group of people, but you were okay with that? And I'm like, it's the news. Like, but I had to know about the dog. So Gareth thinks I'm a little wonky.
No, a lot of people were more concerned about sort of cruelty to animals in books than, and it does work as well. I mean, you got well, pretty much any Disney film will have
Yeah.
some animal being killed, usually if it's a parent.
Yeah.
It works on people.
Well, that's it. And I mean, Gareth, and that's what we were talking about as well as because Gareth's like, but that's why because I said, Stephen King's got issues, like seriously. And he's like, he loves animals. I'm like, well, you wouldn't know it from his books. And he's like, yes, you would, because he knows that's what's going to tear at your heartstrings and
Yeah.
get you in the story. And I'm like, fair enough. But for me, it gives it isn't nightmares. It just winds me up. And I'm not, once I've seen it or I've heard it, I don't unsee it and I can't unhear it. And it will agitate me for days. Like I just go from zero to nuclear when it comes to any harm to animals.
Yeah, but don't you think when Stephen King hears that, he's thinking my books are having such an effect on people?
Probably.
Right, I'm going to wring a budgie's neck next time.
Yeah. And I'm going to not buy any more of his books because I read Tommy Knockers once. I'll never read it again. I know what happens in that book, and it's been decades since I've read Tommy Knockers. I'll never read I Am Legend. I hear it's an amazing book, and people enjoy it. They've seen the movie. Nope, not going to happen. But I did enjoy, I think, oh, it's called Close to, what is her name? Shirley Jackson. Um, Something about Hill House. And they're so close.
Um,
Ghost on Hill House, Horror on Hill House. I know I have it
yeah,
down here somewhere, but I
hold
can't.
on. The haunting of Hill House.
Thank you. Now, is that the Shirley Jackson or
Oh, Shirley
Matheson?
Jackson, yeah.
And see, that's the one I haven't read. Hey, Greg.
Hey,
But it
Greg.
sounds so much like Matheson's book, and they're called very similar. And they both have this group going to this old abandoned house, and there's issues, whether you want to think it's paranormal or psychological. And I really need to get that book by Shirley Jackson and read it and compare the two books. Because every time I hear about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I read, oh, no, they're talking about Shirley Jackson's. And I'm like, they're so much the same. I'm just going to check up in our comment. Okay. Alan has some of the greatest music. Loving it on the videos, by the way, Alan. Was listening to the Beatles. Ooh, on vinyl. Look at you. It's the best way to listen to music. Oh, was Herbert English? Yeah, I'm
Yes,
wondering.
I think he was a Cockney, or Cockney adjacent.
There you
He's
go.
East London boy.
Nice. Alan also enjoys King and Kuntz. Yeah, I read quite a few of Kuntz. And the thing with Kuntz is they're dog safe. Because he has a golden retriever. And so the dogs are in the story, but you know they're going to be okay at the end. He won't do that thing because I almost, and see, I'm bad. If the story's kind of or there's an animal, I never used to do this when I was younger. I don't know why it agitates me more as I'm older. But if there's an animal and it's not looking good, I'll read the last chapter and then decide if I'm going to, whether I'm done with the book, because now I know how it ends anyways, or whether it's worth going back to fill in the gap. Now you're kind of chuckling. I'm guessing you never do that, Gavin.
I was just wondering if maybe we could buddy read Old Yeller.
Oh, I've read that. No. I know how that whole story goes.
Oh,
Same
there's
with Cujo.
the yearling. Does it die at the end of the yearling? It's a book about a deer, I think.
Oh yeah, don't read, no, not reading that one either. No, we're not reading Old Yeller. But I see, and this is why I say it bothers me more now, maybe just because there's been so much more life experience versus when I was a young teenager and living on the farm. Because I remember watching the Disney movies, except I didn't often get to see the end because let's just say I had anger and language issues. So I spent a lot of time in my room reading books and not seeing the end of movies. It's like, no, you gotta go to your room. It's like, but those damn no, go to your room. It's like, whatever. Um, but yeah, I read Old Yeller. I read Cujo, like from beginning to end. I didn't go to the last chapter, and I got through it, but somehow now it just hits different now. Maybe because most of our kids, and I have fur kids, I don't have the human ones, I leave that to other people. Um, because with our fur kids are rescues, and there's so many things, and along social media and everywhere, it's just no. Humans are not my favorite species. There are some, and a very select few on
we,
my curing tree,
we,
but
we've got to find your tipping point, though. What's acceptable? The shark dies at the end of Jaws. You okay with that?
hmm, yeah, I've seen Jaws. It's different.
Why? Sharks are endangered.
They are, and people need to leave them alone, especially cutting off their fins for that soup. I
Well,
don't know. I'm
I mean,
thinking
in that
maybe
case, the shark did
because,
start it.
sorry?
The shark did start it in that case.
Well, it kind of did, but still, it was in the water and humans shouldn't have been there. I mean, it is his domain, to be fair. And I was watching, but I had to stop even that, some videos the other day about Tilleman and, oh, I can't think of the other one's name, but they're in these SeaWorld Marineland
Yeah.
horrific situations. And I mean, I feel bad that people lost their lives, and it was horrific, especially in front of spectators, but they're killer whales. Like, it's in the freaking name. Leave them in their environment. Stop stealing the babies from their families. I mean, they have communication and all of it. But I think when it comes to the books, when it's cats and dogs, because I'm used to owning them, right? So I'm used to them, and I call them my fur kids. So it hits very close to home for me. I mean, everyone has different experiences reading different things, right? But for me, because they're my lifelines, they're who I spend most of my days with now because I'm home and other issues. Yeah,
Well,
I just,
you read horror to be sort of scared or jolted, not traumatized.
that's right. Like, give me monsters, but the only Stephen King book, well, no, there's actually two now. Misery scared the hell out of me. The monster in that one is human. The other one that gave me the creeps was Revival, and it was his take on the afterlife, and it was not good. It was just not good or hopeful. Catch up on. So Lily, like the Dark Tower series. See, I haven't read it. I've heard a few people. Alan also enjoyed it. Jinx, because they both said the same. Uh, but yeah, I've heard a lot of people say they've enjoyed the Dark Tower series. There's a character. Oh, now I can't. Oh, actually, from Revival that I just mentioned. Is it Revival or Salem's Lot? It's one of the priest characters, and he shows up in the Dark Tower series because in the novel, no, so it's Salem's Lot, because in the novel, you don't really find out what happened to him. You get some conclusion to all the town full of characters, but this one priest just kind of goes off somewhere else. But I've never read the Dark Tower series. Oh, yeah. Tommy Knockers is my least favorite king. I agree. That one was just Al Bizarro for sure. Haunting of Hill House, so Venue. We've said hello to Greg. Always get Matheson and Jackson books mixed up with the film House on Haunted Hill. See, so yeah, a lot of comparisons there. Ooh, excuse me as my voice goes. And Aaron, before I forget, I don't know if I'm going to get to Dune in June. I have had that book waiting for, oh man, might be, no, it's only 3 years, which is bad enough. But I actually found a box set at, well, our Indigo here is like, is it Waterstones?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Indigo is kind of like our big bookstore thing. And I got a set of 3 books. And Dune, yes, was one I'd unhauled as well. And I'd read it decades ago. And I'm like, oh, I'd like to read it again. And I keep saying this year, and it keeps sitting on my shelf. And so I don't know if I will get to it or not. That's right, Scotty. Kuntz's dog. I remember, aw, in real life. Yeah, that would have been sad. What a honker. Oh, here we go. Had to explain to Noah what vinyl was the other day. Yeah, he's such a puppy. And that's the wild thing is there are some people who really don't know what a record is.
Well, they're now outselling CDs. They have come back
Yeah.
because they found a way to make everyone buy all their record collections for the 4th time, but this time pay £30 per disc.
Yeah, they are. It's nice to know you're always a spitfire. Yeah, well, my dad would disagree with you, but thank you. Oh, Alan. Yes, Lily. And I did see on your post about a situation at a SeaWorld. And see again, as soon as I had seen that, I kept thinking about those 2 whales in Florida. But they are now setting up retirement homes. They're big, obviously, for the whales because I mean there's the diseases, they're being stripped from their family, they're bonking into, I mean these whales need a ton of space and those things are not big enough for them. And they're chewing down their teeth, gnawing on the bars and things. It's like, no, if you want to see whales, like, I don't know, find a way to do a webcam or a satellite or something. Like, no, just no. Just say no. Get on Noah when he's on Monday's show. Oh, that'll be interesting. Lily saying hi to Leslie. Probably forgot. Hey, Diane, long time no see. How are you? Yeah, SeaWorld, agreed. Live in San Diego. They saying hi to Diane. Diane saying hi. Father Callahan. Ah, thank you, Salem's Lot. See, it's always awesome when people can fill in the gaps. Ah, Noah's on June 9th. Have to give me some insight. Oh, poor little Noah. Ben and I'll fill you in. Hey, Jen, how are ya?
Oh, yeah.
And we're caught up. Okay, so we did touch on Horror Mayhem. The other big event coming up, of course, is Book Track that was started by Vin at Revenant Reads. You are a newbie to Book Track.
Yep. I'm not a newbie to Star Trek, but I've never read the books.
Hey, Pat.
I think I was just scared to. Well, I thought if they're going to be good, then I'll have lost. I'll have lost myself to them. I mean, it's not my favorite science fiction show, but even my favorite science fiction show, I think I've only read one of the books.
Okay, Star Trek or Star Wars? And I know you mentioned, I think it was your video I saw
No,
you mentioned the other
no,
day.
something that predates either of those.
Oh, Doctor Who?
Of course.
Yeah, Greg, Doctor Who. Okay, so then what's your second? See, I could never get into Doctor Who.
Well, why not? How could you not?
Phone booth, I no, it just wasn't my thing.
Oh, okay.
Spaceship, weird aliens. I could get behind that.
There's
Potential future,
plenty of
which,
weird aliens.
we're getting up to Star Trek time, and I don't think we're close to that Federation dealio yet.
No, but don't they have to have like a Third World War first?
Well,
There you go.
we could be headed in that direction. Okay, so who after Doctor Who?
Um, possibly Blake Seven, Blake Seven, or Star Trek. I've certainly seen more of Star Trek because there's more of it to see. So yes, I do have. I'm only going to do one book a month, but I have 3 books for Book Trek.
Nice.
So I have The Dreams of the Raven,
Ah.
and I think it is a McCoy-centered book. So he's one of my favorites.
Oh, McCoy all the way. Next to Spock, McCoy.
And then some of the James Blish stories.
Okay, I haven't read those.
So I think James Blish was the first person to put pen to paper for a Star Trek novel. But I think they are. I think they're short stories, and each short story was an episode. But he was right at the beginning. He was writing the episodes based on what he'd been told was and what was in the script, rather than what was on the show, because the show hadn't been released yet. So
Ah.
that would be July's,
See,
and
I have
then
it set by Alan Dean Foster, and those are the Star Trek logbooks, but they're based on the animated series. And so there's 3 short stories in each. But the stories are a lot like the actual episodes. So I'm not sure if the animated one was just kind of a takeoff on some of them, but
well, I think the animation. I mean, the animation really was a continuation of the original series. It had, I think, just about all the original cast in it.
mm,
So you had the same writers, you had the same voice actors, um, and it was very much the same style, but it's obviously pitched more towards kids.
yeah. Yep. Hey, Kat. And your third book?
Novelization. So I figured
Ooh.
for Garb August there might be a novelization category. There usually is. So I'll save that one for August, and it's written by Vonda McIntyre. So I'm hoping I've got high hopes for this one. I really like the film as well. So
Nice. Yeah, I've got the original series and the Next Generation box sets of movies. And last year I mixed it up with reading some of the books and watching some of the movies, which was kind of nice. But it was funny, and I blame Vin for some of my shopping sprees at the thrift store. Because when I first heard about Book Track, all I had was a magazine. That was it. I didn't, because I unhauled all my Star Trek stuff years before. And then I went to my one, because we have 2 thrift stores here that are just books. So I went to the one, and they're like, no, those go really fast. The other one that I typically go to that I made my video about has a whole 3-4 section of them. So I was like very excited, and it's like, okay, where am I going to start? I picked up a couple of hard copies, actually, the other one that I grabbed. And then at my usual thrift store, I found the Star Trek logbooks by Alan Dean Foster. And I just lucked out. There's 10 altogether. I happened to get 9 of them. And I'm like, oh, I'm just missing one. And then I had this little niggle a few weeks later to go back, and there was the book that I needed to complete my set of 10. So I now have 1 to 10 of Alan Dean Foster. So excited.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I've picked up a ton of other books. I have like a massive basket of Star Trek now with trivia facts about the original series and the Next Generation. And I just during one of my recent book hauls found Sarek.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so Spock's dad. So this is by A.C. Crispin. I haven't read this before, so this is new to me, but it gives Sarek's story, which I'm fascinated to read because we know so much about Spock and we know bits and pieces of Sarek, but I'm really interested to find out where this goes. So I'm hoping it's an excellent read.
I read one of her books
Did
last
you?
year. So I mean, it was another adaptation. It was V.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was good. And then I found earlier this year, so I'll probably read it this August, The East Coast Crisis. So
Ah.
not based on the series, but by the same author.
Oh, good. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Well, last year, one of the books that I found for Book Track was Probe. And that was perfect. I can't remember the author in the books downstairs, unfortunately. But is it Star Trek 3, The Whales?
That's
Yes.
4.
Is it 4? Okay.
Yep.
So Star Trek 4 with the whales, Probe picks up afterwards and talks about the probe and where it actually came from. So it goes along, and then you have Star Trek 5 after that. So yeah, that was, and it was funny because I actually watched Star Trek 4 and went, perfect. It all nicely meshed in.
I've just realised something terrible.
Uh-oh.
If they hadn't been keeping the whales in the SeaWorld place,
Yeah.
the Earth would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Good old SeaWorld. There you go. Just for balance.
No. No. Humans should have got smart and protected the whales in their own environment. So we have Kat joining us. Oh, wow, I'm farther behind than I thought. My goodness. Okay. Only watched a short clip of Doctor Who, only because Van Gogh was in it.
That's not a bad episode, actually. It's about mental health. That episode is written by Richard Curtis, who did Four Weddings and a Funeral and Love Actually and Blackadder and a whole bunch of stuff.
Cool. We have our little chaos. Hey, our other chaos isn't here. Alan Dean Foster's Midword. Haven't read that one. Have to check that out. People saying hi to Kat. Kat saying hi back. Oh, did y'all enjoy the pre-spam? It was cute. Hey, Diane. Hey, Alan. Then making folks buy Star Trek books. Not me, not responsible. Yes, you are. I bought Akatar. You're not wiggling your way out of that ever. Only one technical manual for the Class D Enterprise. Just shop during all streams, then we need numbers, which is true. Such a geeky single Trek fan. Hey, Trekkies are not geeky, little Miss Cat. Nice find. Know that name. Not my fault. Currently wondering why Romulans went with an artificial singularity core for warp drives, unlike everyone else. Yeah, that's way more technical than I get into. You're gonna build your
Yeah,
own.
you're gonna roll back your geek comment there.
Take me, Calgon, take me away. So build a Romulan Trix Warbird. May need some of those soon. Did something. Yeah, I agree. Yes. Forrester's Midworld, I'd met. Okay. Yeah, I still, but yeah, Alan Dean Foster's written quite a few, aren't well, it depends on if you're a Romulan or not. They may have a different opinion. But then I have a couple of Star Wars books too. I actually got The Empire Strikes Back again. No, I've got the original Star Wars, and again, found them at my thrift store, and The Force Awakens. So I'll have to see. But yeah, I love that Book Trek is 3 months, so it's not a rush,
Yeah,
you know?
and it's good when I found out only last week that they're bringing Summer of Sports back. So that's a 3-month event. And having already made plans for June, I'm glad it is over 3 months because I can sprinkle it
Yeah.
throughout the duration.
See, and that's what I find because I like the book events. I have my book events calendar sitting right here beside me. But sometimes I find the month it goes too fast because I have all my other reading and things I want to do as well. And so I have all these books planned, but there's no way I can get through them in a month plus.
Yeah, well, we're just winding up Spring into Adventure, and that's been 2 months.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because, well, there was Horror Mayhem, and I'm looking up here. And I was going to try and do Historathon this year, and that just didn't happen. If I was more organized with my insane Da Vinci spiral, it would have been good because that covers pretty much all of Historathon. But I'm very much a mood reader. So to try and put it, like, even putting The Shining aside is a big thing because I've been waiting to read it and waiting. And then I'm like, well, no, I still haven't got to it. So I can put that aside now till September. But like when I brought Sarah home, well, okay, he came home with about 20 other books. But when I bring them home, I want to read them all as soon as I have them. Hey, Margaret. And then the conundrum is, well, which one do I read first? And so now I have 20 books on the go, and I need to get some of them finished because I keep
Just pick
starting.
one. Close your eyes, pick one.
Yeah, I can't do that though. I have to be in the mood for it. I'm weird like that. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think I was going to manage book events very well because I remember because last year was really January was really my first full year of meeting the booktube community and getting to know about book events and everything. And so in the first few months I was hearing about all these different events like Mystery Mayhem, yeah. Is it Mystery Mayhem? March Mystery
March
Madness.
Mystery Madness.
And so I ended up reading a Patricia Cornwell and a Kathy Reichs for that because mystery isn't typically what I read. And I remembered seeing Jack Spread Book Joy, talking about she had to back off from book events and things because it was just, a little too much. And I'm like, oh, I wonder how that happens. A year later, I'm like, yeah, I know, because you have all these fun events, you have all these amazing people you want to support and you want to be part of it. And then it's like, my reading has gone off the rails. I'm putting books aside I wanted to read now.
Yeah, that's one New Year's resolution I had that has fallen by the wayside. I'm only going to participate slightly in book events, and it doesn't work.
Well, because they're so much fun,
Yeah,
and the you want to be part of it. Like, I like the ones, I mean, when Nicole does them, Nicole's Bookish Nook, they're very chill. I mean, they're a month, but they're very chill. She has some prompts and have fun with it. Like, it's not high pressure, high stress. And if you don't get them read, you don't get them read. And I mean, other people don't put pressure either. Any of the events I've been involved in, it. But I think I put pressure on myself, like, oh well, I should have read more for that.
I think that's good. Well, I have to. I put myself under the same sort of pressure, and I think it's good because it makes me read more. Um, if left to my own devices, I would still read. I'd probably still read a lot, but
Mm,
it does, it guides it, and also it makes sure with all the different events that your reading becomes broader,
yeah,
because you would end up perhaps reading, if mysteries are your thing, reading nothing but those all the way through the year, when you can still, nothing's stopping you, but it gives you a little burst, a little bit of focus, and then you can move on to something else while still picking and choosing what you want on the side. I mean, I don't know about you, but my calendar for the year is now booked up till December. There may well be another thing in December as well that I've forgotten about, but we've got westerns, then science fiction, then garbage, then Shakespeare, then Victorian, and then New World November, or non-fiction November, or Doctor November. There's all sorts of things happening.
and December, there's Ghosts of Christmas Past. Vin just started that last year, and I'm pretty sure he's planning on doing that again. October, I know I've got Spooky Skeleton Scary Halloween Readathon. Nicole does that. November, I don't think I've been a part of any of those events. For me, August, September is UFOs, conspiracy theories, and it's not an event. It's just last year, to try and kind of get my reading on track, I set up different focuses for each month or every 2 months, whether that was self care or paranormal, whatever. And so August, September for me is, like I say, the UFO conspiracy theory type stuff, cryptids. And then October, November are ghosts, vampires, paranormal. But I read all of that stuff throughout the year as well.
Yeah,
And I've always read a wide range of things. Like I don't know how people can stick to one genre. And not that it's a bad thing. I just can't, like, I just can't do it.
I think if it's what you love and it's something where there is enough material. So if your thing is a romance book, that's it. That's you are set for life. You could read a new romance book every day for the rest of your days and not scratch the amount that's been written.
True.
Same for westerns, probably the same for science fiction.
Horror.
Yeah. I think with horror, I mean, yes, there's a lot of it, but I
Mm.
think you would probably get all of the classics done within a decade, and then you'd be stuck with some slightly lesser classics. But I mean, fantasy. I mean
Mm.
that one's still exploding.
Yeah, exactly. Just Forrester isn't a Star Trek. Yeah, he writes a variety. Um, Star Wars, know some of those. Always time for adventure. Read a load of Star Wars before Disney bought it. Yeah, decided to change them all to Legends continuity. Big part of me getting into reading was Star Wars books. Yeah, I remembered I watched the movies when they came out. I remember reading the books. Hey Margaret, how big is your spiral? Oh, the Da Vinci spiral? I don't know. It's still somewhere over 100 books, but I have yet to go through my master book list, highlight, and make note. That's one of my to-do projects coming up. How on earth do you not get the stories mixed up? Force troublesome, since there's usually a genre repeat. I I just don't. I mean, sometimes I have to go back a chapter or something to kind of catch up where I left off. But because mine are so different, so for example, I've got the Brown Yelp Gang that I've got on the go. I'll be going on to the Da Vinci Code. Now, I did, and it was the first time it happened. I just reread Angels and Demons the same time I was reading The Last Breath Before You Die, a book that I had gotten from an author to read and review. And I got the villains confused between the two. One's a Hassian, the other is not. I started doing the video and I'm like, wait a minute. Not only did I say Sinisa's name wrong, wasn't a Hassian. What am I talking about? So I had to scrap that. And it's like, damn, that doesn't normally happen. I can, because some are nonfiction, some are fiction. They're all from different genres. So they're not usually quite that close together. I've just gone downstairs, have book mail. Oh, lucky ducky. But I've not ordered anything. Well, maybe someone sent you. This is exciting. Maybe someone sent you a gift. Time extroverted, too close to the sun. Surprise book mail. Woohoo. Oh, have fun at work.
Okay.
It's not from Noah, bless. Ooh, wonder who it's from. Fake well. Scheduled by breakdown end of September. So you're better than me, Gavin.
I was, I was I was planning 2027 last week.
Oh my goodness. See, and I thought because Ven and I are part of a group reread. Well, Ven and I are rereading Wheel of Time because we've both read the whole series, but we have other people who are new to the series, and that's not going to be done till 2026. Kat and I are reading The Vampire Chronicles, and we may have a few people joining in with us. We have a live stream next month to talk about the first two books with a few people. That'll be into 2026. The Da Vinci Spiral will probably never finish. And actually, I want to talk about your Atlantis one too. So we'll catch up on the comments and then go there. Diane, no good at participating in events. Tried, always end up dropping out. See, and I have, well, and Gareth laughs at me as well. See, I'm an endless source of entertainment for him for some reason. But I have my basket of books that I started last year, and it works because, again, I'm a mood reader and I'm visual. I have found ebooks are probably not going to be a favorite genre, and not just because I reading on the computer is not my thing. I need a book in hand, but I'm very visual. So if I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to finish that. Whereas unless I happen to have my laptop open and I'm looking at the main screen with my ebook folder, I forgets I have them. But yeah, my little and I actually need to change that because it's the end of the month. So I have to go through all my books, take out what I didn't get started or read for Horror Mayhem, put in some of my Star Trek and other reads. hosting my first event in November. It's called Vampvember. Vampire themed event. Still working on prompts, graphics, nervous but excited. Oh,
That's be
that
fun.
is exciting. And there you go. I have plenty of vampire books.
I might read Camilla then. Is it Carmilla or Camilla?
Carmilla. Love it. Read it twice. Have you ever read it, Gavin?
No, that's why. I mean, I've read for vampire stuff. I don't think I've read much vampire stuff. I've read Dracula, obviously. I've read Interview with the Vampire. I
Yeah.
read The Vampire by Polidori earlier this year.
I need to read that. It's in one of my short story collections. I remember seeing you talk about that, and I'm like, it's one I haven't read. And Drac has been with me for decades. And I know because this cost all of $1.95 original purchase. And even though the vast majority of my fiction collection went, Drac goes nowhere. But on my shelf, my first vampire. Now, how did you like Polidori's version?
Um, it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's fantastic. I mean, if you consider that at the same time, Frankenstein, literally at the same time in the same house, Frankenstein was also being written.
Yep.
I know which is the better book.
Well, see, he didn't write. He didn't originally
Is
start.
Byron who
Yeah.
started it, but I can see why Byron didn't finish it.
Ah. Oh, now I'm really curious to read
No,
it.
it's a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. And there is a lot more stuff hinted at, even though it's absolutely obvious.
Right.
He's not very explicit about these things, and it does. You do have to believe that the main character who is traveling with this vampire is just the most credulous person in the world. Is that, anyone? Yeah, I suppose that is a common sort of horror trope, though. People who just really are not seeing what's in front of their face.
Well, exactly. And, the thing with horror movies as well, right? They always go upstairs, never out the door, always up to the attic. Like,
You go this way, I'll go this way. No.
yeah, exactly. Ven also loves vampires. Jen as well. Now, Leslie is going to be on our panel in June as well with the vampire. So is Alan and Kat and Stuart Griffin. Leslie's the only one, though, who has seen the TV show. I don't have it because it's on a different streaming service, and I refuse to be nickeled and dimed to have this, that, and the other one. It's why I left cable. But I am very curious to hear from Leslie how close the shows, excuse me, connect with the books. Because I mean, and Ven was just saying the other day, and someone else mentioned it too with Wheel of Time, they got up to season 3 and it's now been canceled. Now, I ended up reading Wheel of Time in 2022 after I saw the 8 episodes on Prime. And this is just me being impatient. I'm like, I'm not waiting a whole year to find out where this is going. I found out about the books, which even though I loved Lord of the Rings and all that, I'd never heard of Robert Jordan. And so I'm like, how'd I miss this whole series? And my husband's like, well, try the first 3 books, see if you like them. So, of course, I knocked those off in no time. And then I got the next 3. And then I'm like, Craig, there's 15 books to the. But I read them all in 2022, except for the prequel. So I read 14 out of the 15.
I mean, that TV show must have been doomed. if they know there are 15 books in a series,
Mm.
how many TV series are there where people like it from season 1 to season 15? There are not that many. It will either
Supernatural. It's the only one I can think of that's been 15 seasons. Maybe Gunsmoke way back when.
Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah. And now he's still going, right?
Yeah.
Even though the actors changed. Coronation Street.
Oh, I think Doctor Who's longer than Coronation Street. I think.
Really?
So Doctor Who, the very first episode was broadcast the day after Kennedy's assassination.
Oh, November 63.
Yeah. Um,
Wow.
so a full 3 years before Star Trek. I think it's 3 years before.
Um, One or two. Because for some reason I think Star Trek aired 64 or 65. I mean, I was watching it when I came home from school, but that wasn't the original
I would have thought
showing.
yeah, I would have thought it'd been sort of 66. I'm just judging it by haircuts though. So
Maybe. I'm not sure. There was a time I could have told you everything Star Trek
um,
like that, but
someone will know.
that's true. Ebook format is a chore indeed. Now, for some people, they love it. I mean, people on their Kindles and things, not a problem. Actually, and it was so I'll just use this for an example of because I need to hold my books and I annotate like crazy. And it's not the same highlighting and stuff on a tablet versus in a book and making it full of pretty colors. This was one of my was hoping to read for Horror Mayhem. This is The Dream World of H.P. Lovecraft, and this is by Donald Tyson. Now it's funny because I've got a bunch of my books set up here because what we're chatting about, and I noticed this little crescent moon, which is Llewellyn Publications, and I'm like, why would Llewellyn? Because they're into magic, alternate thought, greencraft, you name it. They've got those types of books, New Age. And I'm like, why would they be writing about Lovecraft? Well, it turns out not only is this author writing about Lovecraft, he's Canadian. Woohoo! Go Canada! But he's written a ton of books about Kabbalah, tarot, ceremonial magic, and I probably can't say this right. No, oh, wait, I need to find the word. Oh, here we go. Necron,
Ne-
necronomy.
ne- Necronomicon.
Thank you. That one. The word Gavin just said that I'm not going to get out. So I'm super excited to read about this, not just because I want to find out about Lovecraft himself, but to find out where else it goes, because it's about where did he come up with all these ideas and the old ones and all that. I mean, I know there's a lot of not good things about him, but he did write some good things.
Oh, look, yeah. I mean, you do have to separate as much as you can the artist from the art, and if doing that with H.P. Lovecraft is a very good idea. I mean,
See now,
it's odd. You keep hearing these stories about how welcoming he was to other writers, and how he would be endless correspondence and tutelage, and he's sort of very generous with people, and yet there's just this absolutely hateful side to him.
yeah, and I mean, that's the thing too, is there was definitely the other side to him. And when I was at Indigo, it makes me sad now, but because they had a number of different box sets. So I picked up H.G. Wells. So I had 5 of his, Jules Verne. So I finally read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea a few years ago. I'd read Journey to the Center of the Earth, and I think one of the others, but they also had Lovecraft. But the only thing I knew of Lovecraft was the Dunwich Horror, and I'd read that way back in high school. And somehow I never got into reading any other Lovecraft. I'd read John Wyndham and Wells, and then got into King and Kuntz and Rice. But I'd never read Lovecraft. And then at the discount table, the one time I was there, they had his one compendium, just a small one. So it had Cthulhu and Dagon and Dunwich Horror, which is why I picked it up. And then I'm like, well, now I'm sad I don't have his other stories, but the library has some, so that's kind of a good thing. Oh, now see, Margaret's commenting about the ebook, hence Kooky Mayhem. A number of people are doing reading sprints and reading what's on their Kindles.
Ah, okay. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
I'll present the case for the defense of the ebook, though.
Okay.
I prefer an analog dead tree book, but sometimes you can't get a hold of the book. So it is very rare that I will buy an ebook, but I use my actual ebook to download stuff. So I'm not finding a copy of Strange Tales.
Ah, okay.
That's not going to be anywhere. I'm not even sure it got over to this side of the Atlantic. So if I want to read some pulp horror, the original stuff, I don't really have much of an alternative.
Right.
And I mean, it's not just about pulps. There's so much stuff you can get hold of, and it's free. I mean, this will pay for itself several times over before it dies.
Nice. Yeah, and that's a good point. And I mean, and it's why I tend to go, well, because the prices are amazing as well. But when I go to my thrift store and there's certain books I see, I'm scooping them up because to find books again is not as easy as it used to be. I mean, when I unhauled books years ago, I never really thought about, oh, if I change my mind, I could just go to the store and repurchase it. And now there are some books, and I'm like, damn, I can't find them. Oh, he's sitting. Is he sitting here? Maybe I didn't move the elementals. Oh, yes, I did. Good. Michael McDowell. Loved his work when I was in my late teens. The Amulet, Cold Moon Over Babylon, had awesome covers. Unhauled them when all my fiction went. Up until a few years ago, you couldn't get Michael McDowell again. His work was out of print, and he's Southern Gothic horror. And so since then, I'm like, unless I am 100% and then some sure I will never read this or have use for it, these books go nowhere. And I already have figured out where all my books are going. And that person knows they're annotated and they're more than happy to take my collection. They may miss me, but they'll enjoy my books. So yeah, it's just not easy to get certain books anymore. And yeah, so your ebook is a solution for that as well. I enjoy, okay, Jen, and participating in events. Sometimes I go all out, other times in a more casual way. Depends, and that's it, right? You have to balance it out with life, what else is going on. Read The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. Awesome. Good book. So we have a recommend. Carmela, yes, going to be my host recommendation. Love that book. Me too. Leslie has not read it yet. Now, hey, Dark Star. Now, the funny thing is, Kat read it, and Kat loves her vampires as well. She could not get through Carmilla, and it's a small
Yeah, it's not a
book,
long book.
but and I don't think she finished Dracula either. It's just a different type of read for some people. I loved it. I loved Carmilla and I loved Dracula, but for me, Dracula is family heritage because that's where my family's from, Hungary, and there's that Hungary Romania
Yeah,
connection thing.
that's definitely a
Um,
connection. I was at so a job I had about 5 years ago. Um, I noticed is we getting to know everyone. Everyone was sort of new there. It was just a new venture thing, and one of the guys there was called Edward Lefanu. I was like, I've got to ask. Is
yeah.
are you related? Yeah, he's the great nephew. So
Oh, wow.
I don't think many people ask him that because I just don't think he's not that well known anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool, though. That's neat. Yeah, and I actually, in a couple of the collections I've picked up, a couple were last year at Indigo, or that'll be a few years ago now because I don't go to Indigo as much. But I picked up a couple of collections at the thrift store, and they had a few other short stories by Le Fanu in them. I haven't read them yet. There's also a few by Bram Stoker that I hadn't heard of, other than The Judge's House. That one I always remembered, speaking of rats and creepy situations. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading those. The group read, oh, yes, Jen has a book club for November, Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Veen. Don't know if I've heard of that one. Hey, Dark Star. I could talk about the.
What?
Have to
Ah,
help us out there,
yeah,
Jen.
that's it. That's that sounds a right suspense.
Outlander, 8 to finish up, I think, even though there are 10 books. I've never read Outlander, heard about it though. Just watched pilot episode of Supernatural yesterday. How could you not finish it with that eye candy? Margaret,
I
I've
have
watched the
never seen it.
series 3 times and it's got 15 seasons.
Pass me by that one.
Well, I think it's one of the first season I like the best. Not because of the eye candy, but that didn't hurt. But because it was based, each week was based on a different type of supernatural story, legend, myth, what have you, right? So that was the main thing. And then it got into finding the demon that killed their mom and the apocalypse. And then they beat the apocalypse. And I'm like, where do you go from there? Then it was Leviathans. But either way, I'd rather watch something dark with monsters than the news. So supernatural. Tired of these streaming platforms canceling shows after 3 seasons. Must be some sort of back end contractual reason. Now, someone was saying on Netflix, and I can't remember who was talking about it. Wonder if it might have been Jen last week, or I was watching a video that basically Netflix will put the shows out, see how it does in a month, and if it doesn't do well, cancels it. I'm like, oh no, maybe it was Kat when we were having tea the other day. And I'm thinking that's ridiculous. Like a month is people are doing this, that, and the other thing. They watch TV at other times. But to be honest, it's why I couldn't even tell you what 3/4 of the new shows are on, not just because we only have Prime, but because I can't be bothered to invest in 8 episodes and get to know characters and a storyline and then it's just going to be gone. Like
Yeah.
that's why I've really gone back to books. I've always been an avid reader, and thankfully so is my husband. Like we're both bookworms. But my TV viewing is maybe 4 hours a week, and that's watching DVDs that we own. Or right now we're watching the original Battlestar Galactica because it came up on Prime. But
Is it?
yeah,
Well, like the
Richard,
Disco Galactica.
the which one?
Disco.
Disco, yeah. Richard Hatch, Dirk Benedict, Lauren
Excellent.
Green. Yep, the original is on Prime right now. So we've been working our way through that series, and there's more than 8 episodes because again, and I will give Supernatural and the boys credit for that. 20, I think it was something like 22 or 24 episodes a season, right up to season 15. Not this 8 episode.
But it wasn't streaming,
No.
was it? It must have been before the streaming boom, surely.
Yeah, it was because it started. Well, they've been off 4 years, maybe. And so add 15 beyond that. And streaming's been around for a while, but certainly not quite that long. But yeah, so I just prefer to read books now because, and series I typically don't start until they're done.
Well, yeah, this is the problem. It's going to end up a vicious cycle because they are going to cancel things that don't get viewers, and viewers aren't going to invest their time in something they think is going to get cancelled.
Yeah, it is. It's like that catch 22, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
So,
well, their funeral.
well, and there's that. Yeah. Okay. So we were just at Leslie. Well, and the actors and actresses aren't going to be making $20 million a year like Jim Parsons on Big Bang anymore because they only do 8 episodes. Seriously, not 20 like Big Bang.
No, keep the series nice and short. I
No,
don't hold.
keep it long and character development.
No, strong, short, plotted.
Back
I
to
mean,
back. I like binging. I don't like this wait. I'm in my 60s. Time's running out. I don't want to wait a year for the next season. That's why I DNF books. I don't have time to read bad books. Clock's ticking. Gotta go. So then read that a lot of it's that after 3 years, quite often pay raises kick in for actors. Wonder if that's only watched 3 seasons of
if the
Outlander.
premise of the show is good enough, then fine. Bye bye actor.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I've never seen Outlander. Last of Summer Wine's longest continuous TV. Oh, there you go. 31 seasons.
Yeah.
Now, is that a British show?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've never heard of that one.
I think they would probably describe it as gentle comedy.
So not Benny Hill.
No, it definitely skewed towards the older demographic. It was always on a Sunday night, and it's probably the reason millions of kids in the UK did their homework for the following week, because I'm not watching that. It was the Antiques Roadshow,
Yeah.
Songs of Praise, which was a religious program with people. They go to a church and people would sing songs, followed by Last of the Summer Wine. So that is a good 2 hours there where you're not watching it. And there was only the one TV in the house. I'm not going to watch that nonsense.
Well,
I'll get my homework done. I'm sure that's why they scheduled it for Sunday evening.
Well, see, and we had the Lawrence Welk show. And my dad used to watch, he had the singers and the dancers and yeah, all of that stuff. And like you say, one TV. And I remember the TV going off either midnight or 1 o'clock. That was the end of programming. You just had snow
Yeah.
until the next morning when programming started again. Oh, makes sense. Yeah, see, Leslie's agreeing with you about the pay. Haven't heard of that. Have to look it up. Gran knew one of the original actors from Last of the Summer Wine. Oh, that's cool. Saying hi to Dark Star. I won't read a book if I know the tree dies. Hey, Noah. Didn't know you were live. Dude, you saw it in the chaos chat. You need to read them. Noah. Hope everyone's doing well. I think I stopped at season 3. That must be Outlander. Are you related to Sheridan? Wow. Yeah, exactly. That is very
I'm
cool.
not, but this guy was.
Yeah, everyone, that is amazing. Cool. He's a baby, Elaine. So something had to do with the young. I'm just a baby. Oh, that must have been all of you young pups. Could talk about Night of the Horror Story contest between Shelley. There we go. For hours. Yes, Jen is a huge Frankenstein fan. She has, I think, is it five or six copies, Jen? And she has a huge area set up to Edgar Allan Poe with a life-size cutout. So nice. I don't have any of those, but I do have a tiki, and she just end up climbing it. So no point seeing Poe go down into cardboard. Cancel Wheel of Time, but Emily in Paris gets yet another season. Not sure what that one is, but very strange to me too. Only press I see about Emily is rants. Well, there you go. I mean, look at the rants. When people do rants about on BookTube, they get like tens and 20,000 views, but do a book review and you're lucky if you get 100 or so. Back in my day, 2 channels, had to get up, walk to the yes, to change the channel, rearrange the antenna. I remember, and we liked it. See, I remember it was a big deal when we got that antenna outside and you just had to turn the box so that it moved and was so cool. Did we though? Margaret. Remember the radio buttons for TV? Then I grew up in a house, radio buttons for the lights too. Noah's scooting off. We scared him. Hey, Jack, we were talking about you. Your ears must have been ringing. Remember doing my homework during Songs of Praise? Hey, Jack.
Hello.
Okay. Oh, yes, we were talking about book events and my seeing Jack's video about having to narrow down the reading because too many events and things was taking some of the fun out of it.
You
Seven,
can you can double up.
that's true, and I need to learn how to do that a bit better because they are fun, and I hate, not doing some of the stuff. Well, Ghosts of Christmas Past was my first co-host experience with Vin, see Ven, with Vin, and Mindy, and I think was Debs with us there? I know there were 4 or 5 of us, and then I just did another co-host on Celtophile, which was Nicole's event, and that was with Margaret and Philip. So kind of spreading my wings a bit. And yeah, they've been fun. She has 7 editions of Frankenstein and the Shrine to Poe. I was off by a few books. Remember coming home to Oprah's on No Homework? Oh, yes. Miss O. See, I remember Phil Donahue. Ken, hey, oh, that's okay. Thanks so much for popping in. Wait, we can get 20,000 views for rants? Yes. I need more anger. Stoke up the PMs coming to a video near you. Hey, your hat and outfits, Dark Star, are amazing. And I love your videos. And even when she's saying she doesn't like a book, she's so polite about it and just has this beautiful accent. It sounds amazing. Remember my dad going outside to adjust the antenna sometimes. We didn't have to do that. Oh, here goes Ven. I mean, you start Akatar soon, Dark Star. Yes. Sound like prime rent. Oh, yeah. I can't wait to hear what. Hey, Noah, welcome back. I can't wait to hear what Dark Star thinks about Akatar. Now, it's romantasy.
I managed the first one.
Have you read the first?
I read the first one. We did it as part of Banned Books.
Yeah.
Last year, and was it
your thoughts?
It was a bit like watching a Disney film. I mean, I was reading through it. Okay, so it starts off Cinderella and turns into Beauty and the Beast, and there wasn't a whole lot there for me.
Well, had I stopped at book 1, that would have been lovely. And I read it for 2 reasons. Banned book, because I did the 24 in 2024. And 2, because Ven absolutely detests. I am going to blame you. It is your fault. So, I read Akatar, Banned book, and Ven hates Feyre. And to get mileage out of course, bothering Ven, I had to know who Feyre was. Thus, I had to read the book. It's your turn now, Noah. So, I happened to be in a live stream of Noah's a while ago, and Noah was talking about this series, and someone asked him, yeah, what? Someone asked him to put character names to the Chaos Gremlin group, as in Ven, myself, Kat, Jenny. And so he called me Nesta. And I'm like, well, there wasn't much of her in book 1. So
you fell for it.
Well, to be fair, in January, I did get them from my library. And so, unlike Ven and Noah, I have read the whole damn series. These are not little books. And this book is where we finally find out about Nesta. And there is so much boom chicka wawa that I have zero interest in reading.
Oh, I mean that was pretty tame. I mean, and that's the reason it's been, well, that's putatively the reason it's been banned as well. And it's like, well,
hey, in the last book, it's 10 pages, one scene. I don't care if they're Fae. No one's doing it that long, that many ways. It just is not happening.
How many words on a page?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. I can't wait to annotate these things because poor Noah loses his mind with my annotation. Thus, I've been called the book murderer by Noah. And I'm like, you know what? And now, because I'm just a glutton for punishment. But to be fair, there is more to those books, and it's certainly over the series and the character development and everything else. So now in September, I am starting a reread of Akatar as part of a group. Because, I had nothing else to read.
But you're not going to reread Dune.
I will. It just keeps getting pushed to the side with everything. Oh, which reminds me, we have not talked about June on the Range. I do not read June on the Range or Westerns, but I know you're participating in that.
Yeah. So I was asked to be a co-host this year, which is nice.
Oh, nice.
Um, so this will be my third June on the Range.
Cool.
Um, and yeah, I've got a lot of ideas for June, but
Awesome.
sort of two main things I'm going to be doing. I'm going to continue reading my Zane Grey books. So I'm doing this thing called 50 Zanes of Grey, where
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
read at least 50 of his books, and I'm on book 10 at the moment, so I only started it this year.
Yeah.
And I should hopefully get 4 read during June, including Riders of the Purple Sage, which I think is probably his most famous book.
Mm.
And then the sequel to Riders of the Purple Sage, which I've got, The Rainbow Trail.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing I'll be doing for June, going to read a couple of pulp magazines, including Spicy Western magazine from 1940 something or other. And the other is a series or a selection of books by, this one is George G. Gilman, whose real name was Terry. So that's Edge, so one of those. And then Breed, Herne the Hunter, and Jubal Cade, who is also the same guy that wrote Edge, but just using a third name.
Oh, wow.
All of these guys were English or British.
Yeah.
And and some of them had never even gone to America.
But they wrote Westerns.
The High Chaparral was always on. The spaghetti westerns have just been big. You sort of grew up with all of the Western TV, but I think this guy who wrote Edge and Jubal Cade had never even read a Western before. He got it all from TV.
Wow. Oh, yeah, because there was like Big Valley, Bonanza, which also had Lauren Green as a father.
Yep. Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. I remember Miss Kitty.
So yeah, Bonanza, High Chaparral.
Oh, neat.
Oh, loads. Rawhide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't watch many of them, but I do remember Gunsmoke. I think I started watching that in black and white, actually. Lord, I feel old sometimes.
But they got everything from that, and I think the spaghetti westerns as well. This off the back of spaghetti westerns, they became popular. Westerns became popular again.
Yeah, and Greg's the Rifleman, the Virginian.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I did get a little bit of a head start this year. So anyway, all of those guys were English, so I want to find out more about that and how that ended up becoming a thing. They're called the Piccadilly Cowboys because they met in a pub in Piccadilly.
Oh, neat.
But actually, Greg just reminded me, I literally have finished this evening the Oregon Trail.
Oh, wow.
So this is either, talk about doubling up, this is either my last Spring into Adventure book or my first June on the Range book, depending on which way you want to cut it. Because it's
nice.
Greg's still going. Yeah.
And then we'll travel. I'm pretty sure I know I haven't watched it yet, Greg. Sorry, but I know you've got your June on the. I'm pretty sure I've seen you with a June on the Range video. Just for Leslie, guess Faye have strong endurance. Yeah, and then some. Like 10 pages? Come on. I'd like to know if her husband's ever read the book and feels a little inadequate afterwards, because that's
Well,
just wild.
surely it's just down to your powers of description.
I guess. Noah, I'm not sure you did a good job because I had other books I was going to read in January. And the bugger with those, and why I finally just bought them for the reread, is they are on such a backlog through the library that when they came through, I had to read them to get them back, because most of the other books will just automatically renew after 3 weeks. And so, like The Future of Humanity, and I had a couple of Michael Shermer's just auto renewed, because who wants to read about, the future of humanity and critical thinking? But Sarah J. Maas, yeah, those suckers had to be back. Like, if you could get them back before the due date, you better get on that. It's like, oh my goodness. Hey, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
What time is it in New Zealand right now? There's one, Johnny Yuma.
Oh, I don't even know. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah. 8:32 on Friday morning. We're time traveling. June's also Audio Book Month, Caribbean Heritage Month, and I think Pride's trying to move to July. Interesting. It's like an American writing Regency romance. Really, everyone's allowed, as long as you respect the conventions or at least know them. There we
Yeah.
go. Oh, no. Torrential rain. That's not good. We had a little bit of rain and it's still cloudy. Before we came on, Gavin and I've already mentioned this to Ven, I've said I want our weather back from Britain. They have our sun and mild weather. We've got the rain and the clouds. It's not fair. So, what? Oh, and yeah, I've already mentioned Dune. Now, I'm just going to quick mention, because you talked about this individual, and like Lovecraft, he has quite the reputation, and that would be Mr. Aleister Crowley.
Mm.
The book
What
of
did I do with that
Thoth,
book?
or Thoth, the Egyptian Tarot. I have yet to read this. I did not find this one in the thrift store, so I paid a penny for it. But I also, a while ago, so it would have been the beginning of last year, picked up a box set, because they have them for $25. I mean, that's pretty good for 5 books new. Aleister Crowley's books. So I have yet to finish Moonchild. It was a good read, but this is one of my 20. We'll finish one of these day books. But I really wonder with Aleister, which is not his real name, by the way, he changed his name. But I wonder, especially because I did a video months ago on Madame Blavatsky, excuse me, and between reading about her and a few things, but I haven't delved really far deep into Crowley, I wonder how much some of the stuff with him was not real, but
He's
more an act and
he is a showman.
bravado.
He's a showman. But it worked.
People still know his name. How many years later? Take care. Happy teaching.
Yeah, I want to. I'm intrigued by what they call it. I always forget the name. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yeah. I haven't read much about that, but I've actually, there was someone here in my city who was part of it, but never had a chance to sit down and talk to them. But I mean, there was all, when I was looking at the Fox sisters, and I want to get back to it. Last year I was starting a series called Hoax or Holy Grail, and I figured I would start, with the spiritual movement and kind of move up towards some of the more paranormal type things now. So I started with the Fox sisters, and then I did Helena, and I was going to go on, and then like everything went off the rails, and I need to really get back to that. Um, but I know the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley and all of them kind of come up, and they were all kind of developing, I think, around the same time. Like Helena came up with the Theosophical Society, which is still around. Crowley had his system, and I'm trying to think which one decided to start the Satanist Church. Is that Anton LaVey? And he may have been around there at the same times. And the Golden Dawn. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Golden Dawn just had so many. Oh, no, it's a secret society, so they didn't have logbooks of who was a member, but the amount of people who seemed that they were members.
Mm.
I mean, I was, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but W.B. Yeats, and he was sort of vying for leadership alongside against Crowley. They both wanted to be sort of in charge, but you also had Algernon Blackwood, Arthur Machen, a lot of
There's some big names.
Arnold Bennett. I think there's you can do, I think, a good old series on the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn just by looking at the writers and reading their stuff.
Well, and I think part of all of that vying for power is why Crowley went and started his own group.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Blavatsky wasn't part of it.
It's like politics. Everyone wants to be the leader, and so they'll go off and they'll start their own movement and hope it catches on.
Yeah, exactly. Just wanna. Oh, okay. Torrential rain. Pride Month always throws me as Manchester Pride's always the last weekend of August. Yeah, so different because here, I think it might be June. I know they have quite a big event here in my city. That's not just not on. Sent it back. It's bucketing down. Oh, the rain. Rain today in Portland as well. Surprise. Mark was off to work. Hermetic or her pneumatic? Margaret and her fancy wordings. And you made an interesting point in your video as well, Gavin, when you were talking about Crowley. And it's something that has always bothered me when I pick up my different witchcraft books, whether it's green or herbs, whatever. They never spell it with a K. And I'm like,
I don't know when it stopped.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Crowley certainly did when he was writing about it. There are very few, I don't even think Starhawk puts a K. Well, she says witchcraft, but any of the titles that I have, or even reading through the book, they're just with a C. And no wonder people think it's, well, those who aren't afraid to read that type of thing, I should say. But, because the one with the C is the sleight of hand, magician.
Stage magic.
Trick. Exactly. Whereas the other with the K had to do with, the learning and doing spells, all of that. Wicca, yeah, see, never seen it with a K. And maybe it is the Wiccan books, although some of them, and some people interchange Wicca with witchcraft. Others say, no, it's one or the other. And it's like the field of the paranormal and trying to figure out ghosts and what is the paranormal. There is no standard agreed upon vocabulary, right? Like, if the astronomers did that, how would you
What are
figure
your occultist pronouns? I don't know.
what's that?
What are your occultist pronouns?
Well, it would make it easier if could we all agree on what is a poltergeist and what isn't? What is a ghost or a spirit and what isn't it? Because if you're going to do research and going to test for things, you should have a clue what you're looking for. Right?
Well, I don't know. If you want to approach it scientifically, you really shouldn't have an idea of what you're looking for, because if you are looking for it, you are more likely to find it.
But you have to have some kind of
Yeah,
a
you have to have a
theory.
theory, but you got to be open-minded.
Well, yeah. And I'm not saying and see that there's the conundrum, isn't it? Because you're right, to is in you have to be open-minded, but there has to be, or I would think it would be helpful. Maybe I shouldn't say has to be. It would be helpful if there was some type of a starting point or a framework instead of just everyone kind of going their own way.
But
Because they keep
I think
describing this.
you're never going to have it with that, because you're never going to be able to prove anything.
See, I disagree. I just think they haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Oh,
But
look,
then again, I believe in the
if they
paranormal.
do, then I will change my mind. So it's a lot of things like that.
Exactly. Just creeping back to the Stephen Jay Gould theory of fish. Well, and there's so many different things. And I mean, I've got my Da Vinci spiral, which led into, I've got it. Well, I should read the Bible, partly because I don't like the way people pick and choose and cherry pick Bible quotes. But to really understand what they're quoting, you need to take it in context and know the story it goes with. And then you get into all these ancient Egypt and everything else, which is funny because I was born and raised Roman Catholic. You'd think I'd include in ancient Egypt in the Bible, but no, that just didn't. That just didn't. There was a disconnect there. Oh, and Greg is with you on the theory and proof. Now, Atlantis, you are on a huge Atlantis search.
Yes. Well, I'm really interested in the mythology, and it isn't always going to work out. So you mentioned theosophy a little while back. So earlier this year, and I had to go back and find the guy's name, I read 2 short books by W. Scott Elliott. And it was the story of Atlantis and then the lost Lemuria.
Mm.
He was in the theosophical movement. He was writing about Blavatsky all the way through these books. I quite enjoy reading this old pseudoscience
Mm.
when they are when they're trying to show their workings of the science, and it's like you're looking at it going, well, that has got a hole big enough in your theory to drive a bus through. But I find it interesting.
Hmm.
It's the story, the way they can appropriate the myths and finding out about the myths itself. Because I mean, this has been Atlantis has been going on since Plato's time,
Yep.
and you will have dozens of books, if not hundreds, printed this year.
Hmm.
But so this week I have read another Atlantis book this week, and it might have been the worst one of the lot so far.
Uh-oh. What was it?
I'm afraid to say it was by a Canadian.
That's okay.
It was from 1899, and it was called A Bit of Atlantis by a guy called Douglas Erskine.
Hmm.
That wasn't his real name. His real name was John Buchan. I don't think you could use that name. It's good. It isn't that John Buchan. So um, this started. It was only 200 pages long, but the first 50 pages were an introduction.
Oh,
Um,
yikes.
and it's talking about quoting Plato very liberally,
Hmm.
and then cherry picking stuff like Ignatius Donnelly and basically anything that will support his argument, and he'll shoehorn it into that. And at this point, I found out about this book by searching for it.
Yep.
I thought this was like supposed to be some kind of adventure book because it's like it's non-fiction for the first 50 pages.
Right.
Turns out those were the 50 best pages.
Oh,
When the
no.
fiction started, it was terrible. Um, there is I was about, I think, 70 pages or so in, and I realized there's been no dialogue. He's just the narrator is just paraphrasing what the characters are saying to each other. And I think you got one way of making sure there is complete distance from you understanding the character of the people you're depicting. That's probably it.
Hmm.
This is his only book, and I'm honestly can see why. I'm usually trying to find a silver lining in almost everything I read, but I
Hmm.
really did struggle with this. That was a 2-star read. That one. And I only got the second star because of the introduction.
Uh, we'll see. It's not just ancient Egypt and Da Vinci I spiral on. I pulled three of my Atlantis books. I have several others, but I pulled these three for a particular reason. Do not read this. This is Atlantis Insights from a Lost Civilization. This is by Shirley Andrews. Now, although I've read work that is channeled and I read paranormal and all kinds of outside of the box things, this was one heck of a fantasy story published as nonfiction about Atlantis. And the reason I say fantasy, she has more information in here about Atlantis than they have about the Mayans, the Egyptians, and any ancient culture where archaeologists have actually been digging. Like, this is the clothes, the culture, everything. My thought is, how in crikey did you come up with that when they haven't found Atlantis?
Well, that's what the Scott Elliott book was doing, but it's like his proof, and he was going into some laborious detail about more about Lemuria than Atlantis, but he sort of blended the two things.
Yeah.
But they were able to do this because they were getting this from their seances, and that's where their proof was coming from. And it's just like, okay, we've obviously got different definitions of the word proof.
Yipper. Well,
But then, he would. You can't not believe in one bit without believing in the rest of it. And I don't believe,
mm,
but I like to see sometimes the way they tie themselves into knots to make you believe that. And it's like, that book you've got there. Yeah, no way there is no archaeological record, so you cannot know, because that is the kind of non-fiction that is written about. Oh, we found this pot and we can figure this out and that out. This is how they were doing glazing. If they had that, they had these pigments. If they had these pigments, they were able to
Yeah.
access these rocks. If they had that, they must have been able to do some sort of excavation, some mining and stuff. That therefore we can extrapolate all of this detail.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the one thing, you've got nothing to extrapolate from.
And that's it. Like, I mean, they've never found it. I've always been fascinated by Atlantis, and I know how it started with Plato and Solon coming back from Egypt, and Lemuria and that as well. They say it can't be in the Atlantic, although we've got that huge ridge of volcanoes underneath and all kinds of things. Now, another book, and it's been a while, I need to read it again. The Afterwards by John Anthony West, who I haven't read much of. This is Atlantis Beneath the Ice, Fate of the Lost Continent. This is by Rand and Rose Flamath. Now, with theirs, if I remember correctly, it relates back to Charles Hapgood and talking about plate tectonics and the shifting of the plates, the shifting of the poles, and perhaps that's how some of this came about, because they do know the poles shift and that the climates have certainly changed in different parts of the world. I mean, you've got the woolly mammoths who still had buttercups in their stomach frozen solid. So some huge event happened at some point. The other one, and this is probably maybe the closest that came to interesting, or, some kind of fact. Atlantis, Ancient Legacy, Hidden Prophecy, John Michael Greer kind of tries to approach it more as a, hey, what was this about type of thing. So those were, because I've always been, when I saw your post, I'm like, oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, those are also quite modern, aren't they? They look quite modern.
Yeah. Well, Greer's is, oh, that's also Llewellyn. I should have taken out shares in that company. 2007. Now, Rand Flamath, and they were actually librarians, I think, before they got into all of this stuff. 1995 was the original publication. This is a 2012 update. And Shirley Andrews doesn't matter. Oh, she's also Llewellyn, because it's funny. There are a couple of books I've had from, not Llewellyn. It's in Scotland, the small community where supposedly plain dirt, huge vegetable, Finhorn
Okay.
Press. They've, hey, dude. They've put out a few things, and yeah, the stuff I've gotten from there has been not so sure.
I'll show you the wackiest book I've got. So
Okay.
it is linked. So I think this is Lemuria adjacent. Aus Atlantica. Vimana aircraft of ancient India and Atlantis.
I think I've seen. Have you shown that in one of your
I
videos?
possibly have, because I bought this in where on earth was it? It was in Yorkshire.
Because for some reason that cover's looking familiar,
No,
so maybe
yeah.
I've seen.
I'm looking forward and dreading this book.
Too much like Ignatius?
It's going to be. I'm gonna have to, happily suspend my disbelief for 250 pages.
And for some of them, like I actually found an Ignatius Donnelly was one of my last two hauls because I went kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs during my last two book shopping sprees. It was like Captain Makeup's got to go. Like the world needs to come back to normal. Captain Makeup's got to go. I just needed some book shopping therapy. So I found, thankfully, it was at the thrift store. So I got a whack of books for not a massive whack of money. But one was Ignatius Donnelly, but it was about Egypt. So I'm curious to read that. I think it's about Ramses because I know I've read a number of different things about him and what he put together for Atlantis. And it's, like Eric von Daniken, kind of putting things together and off we go with the theories. And I've actually got a number, I think I've got three von Danikens again. Chariots of the Gods, which I've read a few times, and two of his that I haven't. But to me, the big question is, and of course, now they stay away from primitive cultures they discover, which I think is a good thing. But to me, they're looking at all these different images and they're like, oh, that's a plane. Oh, it's an astronaut. But you know what a plane and an astronaut is. What if you took someone from one of these cultures around that area and you could speak their language? What is this? I bet you they wouldn't say plane or astronaut.
No, just to say, well, it's a bird. Just so happens I can't draw.
It really makes me wonder. I mean, I'm fascinated to read this stuff, but it doesn't mean I believe it hook, line, and sinker. Like you have to use critical thinking.
When I when I was a kid, I was a little kid of 5, 6 years old, something like that, and I'd been drawing. And the teacher come along and says, this is the free period where everyone just does drawing for an hour because obviously the teacher hadn't got anything planned. And then at the end, it's like, oh, some horses. That's very nice. And it wasn't horses. It was the battle on the ice world Hoth, and they were all AT-ATs. This is Star Wars. This isn't Black Beauty. But no, I've never been a good artist, but my drawings at that point were probably sort of caveman level. So,
but even the stuff, and I've read. Well, it waited for over a decade plus. The Earth Chronicles by Zachariah Sitchin. There are 6 volumes to it. And he talks about the Anunnaki and all the connections around the Earth, the Mayans and traveling. And he talks about the Sumerians and how culture went. And he shows their drawings compared to the Mayans. And I'm looking at them going, the Sumerian drawings look like a kindergarten compared to a high school graduate with an art diploma. How do you think this started in Sumeria? I mean, it's entirely different. But again, it's why I say, I read it, I give it some thought, but then I read so many other things as well because there's more to it. And I mean, Zechariah spent 30 years of his life looking at those tablets also, and that's the other reason for delving into the Bible, is he draws on the Bible as well because, I mean, it's how they found Troy, but the Bible isn't a literal day by day history book. And some of the things described in there is like, and it's a huge sucker. I'm still amazed people make a living off of writing about Nostradamus and interpreting his prophecies. And I'm like, It was the 1500s. No one has figured out how the quatrains were written or put together because he had to save his ass so the rest of you didn't burn him alive. And now people are making how much money studying his writings, thinking that somehow this is predicting things in 2025.
Well, and not just Nostradamus, anyone who writes an astrology column in a newspaper. Is that the only way you're going to keep your job for more than a month is by keeping these things as vague as possible.
Hey, Tiki. Well, that's it. And I mean, Nostradamus wasn't necessarily writing about this time period. And well, we no longer speak, and, that's probably for the best. After the Twin Towers. Oh, yeah. Nostradamus knew, and here's the email. And I'm like, you get that people are just picking and choosing from the quatrains because
Yeah.
they have no idea what Nostradamus was doing or the code or how to decode any of this. It's translated from the original French. So, again, depends on who did the translation. Don't tell me Nostradamus was saying anything about the Twin Towers in the 1500s.
I remember in 1990 or 91, sort of around that time, so just after the Berlin Wall's fallen and the USSR is falling apart, someone said about so you had Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia break away from the Soviet Union, and someone said this is in Nostradamus, and it was this is this paragraph, and someone said, well, how do you know that's not about the Pointer Sisters? It could easily be this. There's a more recent example, and I love this one. This was about ley lines. Someone had put something on the internet and said, look at all these locations. If you take these ones, this is the pattern it makes, and it makes these sort of patterns that can only mean that there is a thought and there is power behind all of this. And everyone's going, yeah, it really is. It's so, and these are the ley lines, and here are the ancient Neolithic monuments in the UK. And everyone was, basically got a whole forum very excited about it. And then he turned up and said, actually, no, they're Tesco Metros, which are like convenience stores. And so sort of, took all the jam out of their donut. It really did.
No joke. But see, again, and I think this is what makes it challenging is people don't use critical thinking, right? And as soon as, well, there's a perfect example of George Newry and one of his co-authors, William Byrne, Birne. And the book's called Worker in the Light. And it's basically just different ideas about the paranormal and considering things. And it's presented because George Newry's talk show host, Coast to Coast AM. It was Art Bell before George took over. But unfortunately, the co-author used to host a UFO show. And, research, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And they were told that this one situation was a hoax. Byrne decided not to believe it, aired it, going on about proof, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. The two hoaxsters came forward and like, you're a dingle. We told you how we did this. Why would you have put that on the show? And it's like, I think sometimes people are so desperate to believe in something that they latch onto it, but don't think it through. And again, I mean, for myself, yes, I do believe in the paranormal. I've had things happen to me that can't be explained scientifically, and that's why my search into all of this began, was to look for answers. I still don't have answers. And that's okay because the search has been fun and led me to a spiral of all kinds of other cultures and fun stuff to learn about. But it doesn't mean when I suddenly read a book, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
No. And it's funny, and I can't grab them right now, but and I'll eventually, hopefully, in the next few months, it's only been a couple years I've wanted to do this. One book is called Paranormality, and it says it's the scientific proof that the paranormal doesn't exist. The other book I have is The Afterlife Frequency, and it's proof that the paranormal is real. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't both be right.
I
But they're
mean,
both worth.
without reading either of the books, I find it difficult that you will write something to say that you've proven that something doesn't exist. You could say, I have conducted these things and it doesn't exist under these conditions. But I mean, you shouldn't have to prove something doesn't exist. The whole idea, if you're approaching something scientifically, you prove that something does exist, not that it doesn't.
And this is a professor in Britain with an intro by Richard Dawkins.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he believes his, the breakfast in front of him every morning, Richard Dawkins.
Yeah,
and we bring it back to Doctor Who.
yeah, yeah. So, oh,
Doctor
go
Who.
ahead.
Richard Dawkins is married to an actress who was one of the Doctor's companions in the late 70s, early 80s.
Really?
Late 70s, yeah.
No, is Dawkins British?
Yes.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure. I know I heard the name, but I've never heard him speak or watched much about him. I have
We
two of his books.
we have him to thank for the word meme.
Really?
It wasn't anything to do with the internet. It was to do with genes. But yeah.
And then that got okay. We catch up for a bit, and then I want to know why you like Doctor Who, because I mentioned that it didn't work for me, but you didn't really say why it was the
Okay.
first. Gotcha. So Greg's agreeing paranormal can't be proven, but if it is, I'll change my mind. Sarah, famous John Buchanan, I don't know. I'm not sure, Margaret. Wrote Among Things 39 Steps.
And Prester John, which takes us back again to, the ancient
I've heard
civilization.
that name. Where
Well,
does that come up?
that is a medieval. It was a medieval idea of a Christian king in the middle of Africa.
Yeah,
And
that's come
I
up
think
in a bunch of
someone like
books.
Sir John Mandeville or something. It's in Mandeville's Travels or something like that. They play upon this idea and say, yes, well, there is this. And then when they find some archaeological remains of stuff in Africa, they say, oh, it must have been Prester John. In the same way as when they find pyramids in South America, they say it must have been aliens. Because the Western people were so self-absorbed that they couldn't conceive of the idea that other cultures can produce works. They ascribe it to a Christian king in Africa or to otherworldly interference.
There we go. Margaret has read some of Greer's books, the one about Atlantis, very readable. Yeah, I found the same. It wasn't all woo woo out there. It was kind of like it was an enjoyable read. Don't forget to love, tap, like, and hydrate. Thanks, Noah. Okay, so now the book by the other author, looking at some wood carving today. wondering if it was crab legs when a friend pointed out, looking at the negative space, it was just leaves. And again, right? And that's the thing is, and they do say the human brain tries to make sense of something, to recognize it, to look for patterns. And that's why, and even when I look at some of these photographs, and granted, I mean, because some of them are from the 70s and 80s, some of the older books, black and white, not spectacular quality, but I'm like, where the hell do you think you're seeing an astronaut helmet here? Like, I'm not seeing it. And yet they've sold dozens of books, and Von Daniken's still around.
That's why I've got this portrait of Jesus I just found in my omelette, you know.
Oh, yeah. You could sell it on eBay if it wasn't eggs. Look for them on toast. Favorite thing about the ley lines, much of the modern understanding thought up by the wife of the man who invented bird's custard.
I think he's given more to culture than she has.
Now, Layla Ward, is
Mala
that
Ward was the wife of
Dawkins?
Richard Dawkins.
Okay.
Romana, she was
Romana.
the second Romana. She was Romana too, because
Ah.
whereas Doctor Who's a Time Lord, she's all well. I think she also described herself as a Time Lord. Some people say Time Lady. So
Ah, there we go. So married to Tom Baker before. Got introduced by Douglas Adams.
yes, because Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, used to be the script editor of Doctor Who at the time that Lalla Ward and Tom Baker were on it.
There we go. And actually, at my thrift store, and I'm just pointing here because I have a basket of books. I have books everywhere. I need an assistant to get my books organized. They're like too many piles. But I just got about a month, 2 months ago, the whole collection of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've only ever read the first one, and it was decades ago. So I was excited to see the volume. And yeah, Dune, I don't know when I'm going to get to Dune.
I think I think reading Hitchhiker's Guide is probably a lot lighter. It's it's a not so big an ask.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? 42 is the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Why Doctor Who? What made that your fave?
We could talk about the program. We could talk about the character.
Either one.
We'll talk about the program first. It can be anything from episode to episode. If you want the series, if you were running a series, you could do a historical. 1 week, it could be supernatural adjacent. The next, harder science fiction. The following week, thriller. Another week, a romance story. The week after, you can do anything because you've got a time and space machine, so you
Right.
can go anywhere and do anything. So you are not hidebound to anything really that's gone before, other than certain parts of the canon which stay the same, and a lot of it doesn't stay the same.
Right.
And then you've got the character who is a time traveling alien who has taken a liking to the human race and sort of wants to keep an eye on it, and who wants to help. So he goes around, or she, when he's a she, fixing things. The character doesn't carry weapons, occasionally uses one in extreme circumstances, but doesn't have a gun, doesn't like guns.
Right.
They have a magic, a technologically advanced screwdriver which fixes things and opens doors and stuff. So they don't have a gun. They've got they don't have something that destroys something. They've got something that fixes something.
Right.
and it goes around helping people. Now, I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm trying to find something in literature which is similar, because definitely in the 1980s you had a whole host of TV characters who were doing something quite similar, turning up one place, fixing something, and moving on, which is
Quantum
basically
Leap.
Quantum Leap, also a time traveler.
Yep.
But you could have MacGyver, you could have The Littlest Hobo, you could have Highway to Heaven, you could have
Yeah.
um, well, you could
Oh,
probably even have the A Team if you wanted, or Kung
yeah.
Fu, or
Oh, I loved Kung Fu, David Carradine.
exactly. There's all of these series where it's like a good Samaritan type character.
Yeah.
I'm I'm I I struggle to find that in literature.
Mm.
I'm sure it must be there. I'm just not thinking of it, but I'm still scratching my head on that one.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
it
know.
lends itself very well to television, probably not so well to books.
Yeah, I'd have to I'd have to hum and haw about that one because, like you say, I mean, the shows I could, because Dean Stockwell, I enjoyed watching him and actually watched him in the remake of the Dunwich Horror a while ago because that was on Prime as well. Although the movie is very different from the book. Um, but yeah, there was Quantum Leap. There was another, oh, maybe it was just a science one, but not the same type of thing. But yeah, in terms of books, I can't really think of like where the main purpose is to go and help support and fix and then
Yeah,
just go back. It's usually a battle for a throne or a crown or winning, you know, a partner, what have you.
and I think that's one of the attractions of Doctor Who is just someone who turns up and wants to help.
Yeah.
Doesn't always make for the most exciting, but um, yeah, I could go on about it forever. I've got all of the original series upstairs,
Nice.
all the ones that still exist. Um,
Now, how does
and
the character change? Because you said sometimes it's a man, some because for that long, Doctor Who has changed. So is the premise it's the same doctor, or
yes,
does the
it's the same. It's
doctor,
the same person.
but they can just morph
Yeah,
into because the one from Good Omens, which I
yeah.
love that show, even though I know again creator issues. Um, Dave Torrent,
David Tennant.
yeah, he was a doctor for a while, was he not?
He's now been the Doctor twice. It all got a bit weird. But yes, he was the 10th
Hmm.
and possibly the 15th. Not quite sure now. And
Wow.
it literally came back for a couple of episodes.
Yeah, and see it because I know when I was in high school, Star Trek was still a big thing. I mean, I watched it in public school. It was still on when I was in high school in syndication, of course. And then there was Star Wars, but I remember only one of our friends was a Doctor Who fan. And I watched it a few times and it just, I don't know. I think Star Trek, I like the banter between Spock and McCoy and that relationship. And I like
Yeah.
the idea of humanity, being able to get out into space and having work things out on Earth, like you say, after a big brouhaha. And I think Star Wars, I like the idea of the Jedi. And of course, you have the Sith because you need that balance of dark and light. And I mean, there's the saying that, Without the darkness, you wouldn't see the stars. I think Star Wars was just, yeah, between Yoda and Obi-Wan. And then as the story went on, everything happens with Anakin, and you're like, how did he turn into Darth? Like, what snapped that he could actually do some of the things they had him doing? Because he was a good person in the beginning. And when the children are involved, it's like, dude, how how did that not compute? Like, you don't have to be Jedi trained to know that was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
You
good
know?
thing he didn't kill any dogs.
Well, in that part, even children, it was bad. What can I say? Even I have some limits with humans. Um, is it David Tennant's married to the daughter of Peter Davison? Look at you folks and all these connections, you
So yeah,
know.
Peter Davison is the Fifth Doctor, and he's the first one I watched regularly. So the first one I
Ah,
remember is Tom Baker, and he's the one. If to be honest, he's the one. If you say Doctor Who, he's the one you've got in your head. Big curly hair, long big scarf. Um, Davison came afterwards. Looked like he had just come off the cricket pitch. Um, much younger. That's the one that's the one I sort of grew up with, I would say.
mm.
Yes, and then he's now the father-in-law of another doctor. He's his own father-in-law. It all gets very confusing in time travel.
Yeah, no doubt. Just trying to keep the storylines straight. So I'm curious, just as I'm looking around at my insane stack of books and my floors again disappeared under books, and you have your books behind you. How do you organize your books?
I reorganized them all over New Year. So I have one, two, and a bit of these cubicles is what I'm planning to read sort of this year, or
Okay, so yeah,
ones I'm hoping to get to. Now these are all most of these are sort of 3 books deep. So there's a
3 deep?
yeah.
Whoa.
In this one at the back, there's also all my anthologies, and then everything else is just alphabetical. But that's
Wow.
paperbacks. The hardbacks are up there.
Oh my. See, I and I know well, I know Ven has his alphabetical. So does Kat. And you can let me know in the comments if you'd like how are your books organized. I can't do alphabetical. Mine are by subject. And I have cubes like you, except I've got this bookcase and two like it, similar to it downstairs. This one was made by one of my former students, which is why I loved working at a vocational school because I have that bookcase is known as Mallory. I have two stands, Austin and Wes. I have a little thing of shelves, that's Katie. So to me, they're not things, they're people and memories. But my cubes are by subject. So I have ancient cultures, pagan beliefs or spiritual beliefs, because I read a whole variety, not just pagans. I've got, and you'll get a chuckle out of this, 3 cubes of self help. My background's psychology. I need to read these things.
There's self help and there is self help. I mean, there's
But they're not 3 deep.
the stuff that really is on the more psychological side, or the books dealing with grief or stuff like that, I
Yeah.
get it. My surefire way to make you a financial success, or not so much,
Yeah.
or the latest faddy diet and how it's going to change your life, not so much. There's a lot of grift goes on of it.
Exactly. And there was something actually, part of a discussion one of my viewers and I had under my video is, I think there's a purpose to some of them. So, like a Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, and that program's been used in various ways. It's what I used when I had my back injury, and it's what got me back on the road to recovery and pulled me out of the depression in that time. But it wasn't just reading the book, it was doing the work and going through the 12 weeks of the program. And her program is based on her own recovery with alcohol and the AA program, thus 12 weeks. She's been around for a long time. It's not a grift. She did the work, she knows the stuff. There are other ones, and I'm always leery of them when it starts, and it's different addicts and different issues. And I start reading it, and I'm like, you haven't dealt with your own issues. So you're writing a book, and you're basically trying to make a grift of, oh, look at me. I'm an addict. I'm all better. No, you're not, because you got to work it the rest of your life. That doesn't just disappear. There are different things you need to be mindful of. But yeah, and that's what it worries me when it worried me when I saw that number on the tag, because if that's just the books, which is how I read it, that isn't all the seminars and merchandising
Yep.
on top of, because it's not just the books that a lot of these people do. I mean, there's one group that I know of, they have regular cruises. That's not an inexpensive weekend or whatever many days. And to me, again, it comes back to that critical thinking is, why is that such a big industry? Is it that they don't have, I mean, in my case, like my family's gone, a lot of my friends are gone. Is it they don't know how to reach out, they don't have people to talk to, they don't have resources in their community? What is it driving so many people to those books?
Well, look at any sort of financial one, any of the financial self-help stuff. Anyone who is going to show you a trick or a program or a scheme way of doing things to make you rich
Mm,
is categorically lying to you, because if they've found this amazing trick, they will be doing that rather than wasting their time writing a book and diluting all of their success.
mm,
Because if they're so motivated by money, if they'd actually found something, that's what they would be doing. And there isn't a way to do it. Usually, all of these things are, well, people in the late 80s became rich doing this, so let's do that again. And so, well, no, because everyone cottoned on within 3 months and it
yeah.
got done to death. If you want to make lots of money out of cryptocurrency, what you need to do is go back to when no one else is doing it and get in on the ground floor. Now, if you're buying a Bitcoin for $35,000 or $40,000 or $80,000 or however much it is this week, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I mean, whether it's the finance or emotional, what have you, like, and part of it for me was interest, just to see, like, what are these people saying? What are these people writing about? And so I tended to buy a lot of different programs so that you could do them at home. And I'm not a group kind of person. So AA, although I went with my clients, was not going to be something that would have worked for me because I'm very, which is funny as I'm sitting here now on a live stream, I'm very shy, I'm very quiet. You know, I like just doing things on my own. I enjoy buddy reads. I mean, talking about books or that, I could babble for hours as long as I've kind of met you before. I'm that little wallflower that I won't speak up first type of thing in a room. Um, but I think, and again, it came up in the comments, is what a lot of people tend to forget is, so if you're getting these books for the emotional, you know, how to cope, that type of thing, books, you have to remember things didn't fall apart in a day. It could have been weeks, it could be years, it could be some past trauma that suddenly hit you in the ass that you weren't expecting, which came up. Yeah, it was this one. I think this is book 3. There was something in here, and ironically with Nesta, and until I read it, hadn't even occurred to me, and there was no warning that would have prepared me for it, that reminded me of something that happened when I was 5, which was very traumatic. And it was a long week after I read that book, but I'm lucky because with my background and my training, I could recognize what happened and work through it. But again, you have to remember it takes time and it takes work and it takes effort. And sometimes I think these people just buy these books, think they can read it, and it's going to be all better. But it isn't. Like sometimes you still have to go to your doctor, go to a counselor, go to a friend. You still have to do the work. You can't
Yeah.
just go to a seminar or read a book and not do the activities and the work that goes with it. And yeah, it is. I mean, those rich schemes have been around forever. And look at all the ads and things now all over social media all the time. You know, buy this gimmick or do this, or you can make this much on Amazon or this much on Audible and blah, blah, blah. And, ugh, that's not how life works. It just isn't.
My office is just down the road from the London branch of Scientologists.
Oh.
They are masters of this because their greatest enemy isn't this mythical alien race. Their greatest enemy is psychologists because the guy that created religion hated psychologists because the psychologists debunked his first grift, which was Dianetics.
Mm.
The guy should have just stuck to writing
Science fiction.
pulp,
It was Hubbard.
pulp Western, pulp science fiction. He was a pulp writer. He would probably be more fondly remembered.
Well, and he disappeared. And if I remember correctly, and I may not, but when he set up his church, there were certain things put in place, but when he disappeared, none of those could be changed because he was the creator or the founder. So I don't know what that means for Scientology, but I mean, there's a group that's kind of scary boo from what you hear from the people who have left. Not that there aren't some scary boo in the other ones either, but it doesn't seem.
It just becomes more transparent when you've seen it from its inception.
Mm.
There is no mysticism. There is no unknown thing about this religion being created. We saw it happen.
Yeah.
Whereas, you don't get that with many others.
No, they've been around for a A long, long, long time. But I did want to ask you, because you were mentioning the town that you live in. Is it Hay on Wire?
No, I just go there as often as I can.
Okay. Now, is it mainly, it sounded like it's mainly a bookstore, like
It is. It
lots of
is. It is
bookshops.
a book town. It's the world's first
Okay.
book town. So in the in the 1960s, I think the late 60s. Don't quote me on that. There was this guy called Richard Booth, and he basically realized that two things were happening at the same. Well, two things occurred to him. One, property in this unconnected Welsh, very small town village was insanely cheap, and two, lots of the libraries were chucking out their old stock across the country. So he got the books in
Yeah.
and started selling them. And then he was another showman, but this kind of showman we like. He then declared a few years later that Hay on Wye was an independent kingdom. Um, he was all a bit of a joke. This was a kingdom created down the pub. But they started selling passports, and they got a bit more publicity. And then they started the literature festival. So the Hay Literary Festival happens every year now.
Nice.
And it just became a magnet for so other people started setting up shops. And it's a town of 2,000 people, and there's about 20 bookshops,
Wow.
and some of them are massive. Other ones are very sort of niche and
Yeah.
you know um, small in area. So we spent a week there in April, and it was just fantastic.
No doubt. That would be I mean, 20 bookshops. Wow.
The flat we were staying in is on top of a bookshop, and during the day when the bookshop is open, you have to exit through the bookshop. You come down the
Um,
stair, you come down the stairs, and just basically you can't escape it.
but wow, that would be, oh, yeah. I'd be so poor living there. It's bad enough that my thrift store is like a 10-15 minute car drive away, and thankfully I don't drive, so I, I have some extra money at the end of the year.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the town I live in, so I sort of try a little bit more to sort of save up for the next big splurge there.
Yeah, no doubt, because that would be a huge no, because I knew I'd seen your one video, and so I misheard. I thought you had lived like close to it or lived in the town, and
No, unfortunately, I mean it is so remote that it doesn't have a train station. It takes hours for us to get there. It really is nestled away, but
so how do all
when you
these
get there, it's so much nicer.
yeah, but how do they get regular, or is it just that people book rooms?
People
So,
people go there because it is the book town. Everyone who's there visiting is there to buy books.
right. So it's basically the tourist book
Yeah,
industry that keeps their town going, essentially.
yeah.
That's awesome.
It keeps the whole economy of that place going. It's crazy.
Well, and like you say too, because it's remote, it does make it that much more special. I mean, for people who love big cities and the hustle and bustle, maybe not, but if you like that quiet, peaceful touring through, yeah, that would be an amazing vacation.
That's it. It's very rarely crowded. I mean, at the festival time, yes, it would be
Yeah.
because all the media descend there. We get loads of authors turn up there. It also means at the time that we've gone, It's about a month or so before the festival. We can tell that they've all stocked up their books.
Ah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't want to go there the weekend after.
Because it'd be
The
cleared
locusts will
out.
come through.
He's gonna Greg saying prefer to organize by color rainbow order. Love the smart ass comments. Someday I'll actually you do contribute to the conversation. Look at all those shows that you mentioned and the connections between partners on Doctor Who and such.
I need to talk to Greg actually because he might not have finished by now. But that's I was doing a buddy read with Greg for the Oregon Trail.
Ah, now
This
the
is
two.
it's a nice version. It's got all the. I mean, the book's at 1849, I think, but all of these. It's got all these sort of. I don't know if they're
Oh,
woodcuts or
wow.
lithographs or something from the 1890s, 1892 edition,
Nice.
and one, sort of one for every chapter. It's very nice.
Yeah, those are mate.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
but yeah, I probably won't talk to you too much about this one because if you don't like your animals being hurt,
Yeah, no. See, that's like
there's a reason there's not many buffalo about, and I think this author might have a lot to do with it.
it could. And maybe that's why I don't read westerns because it's not the dogs, but the horses probably aren't all going to do well in some of those shootouts and things. Although I do, let's see,
Mm,
Wyatt Earp and that crowd, Doc Holliday. I think I've
yeah.
seen some movies like Young Bloods and a few different stories like that, but yeah, westerns I've never really gotten into. I don't think I've ever read one.
Well,
Well, maybe next year.
I'll tell you what. I'm doing we're gonna do a video this weekend. Basically going through Project Gutenberg because last year I did one with like 50 Western novels.
Wow.
This year it's just going to be short stories, so you can fit a short story in.
A western?
It's just a horse opera.
I don't have a western, Gavin. I'd have to go shopping.
No, it's on Gutenberg.
I don't know what that means.
Project Gutenberg. You'll never have to go shopping again.
Oh, that's even worse.
Well, unless you really want to.
Well, you know what? My library probably has a western.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
You can start with someone like W.C. Tuttle, who did lots of detective westerns.
W Tuttle?
Yes.
Tuttle?
Yeah.
Not quite finished with Oregon. Oh, there you go. But he's close.
I'll zip up about it till then.
That's even worse. Yes, I'm very sad. Tomorrow my thrift store has a 50% off sale. But I have no one to try. So I'm going to have to behave. And I'm going to put in a complaint. Why do you do these on Fridays? Like most people are working. You have it on Saturday when my husband can drive me and dump me off because I'm going to be an hour or so. Truly. And see, those are the Saturdays you don't want to go to the thrift store because it was all picked clean on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, I should probably let you go because I see we're at 2 hours, 44 minutes. And it's late for you there.
And it's a school night, yep.
Oh, no. You have to put the kiddos to bed.
Oh no, they're actually they got half term this week. I was thinking of myself.
Oh, Well, there you go. Make sure you get your beauty sleep.
Oh, I don't, I'm beyond that, I think.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, we covered a whole lot of stuff today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
It has. We'll definitely have to have you back at some point and we'll catch up on what we didn't get read.
Yes.
The book events we were going to do and then went, oh, too many. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. Again, thank you to Team Rewatch. A big thank you to Gavin. Gavin, anything you want to mention coming up on your channel in the next little bit?
An event next year. If anyone wants a potential science fiction buddy read, let me know, because I've got a list of 100 that I'm going to get read next year. Okay.
So, does this mean I still have to read a Western?
No, just science fiction.
Okay, science fiction, I'm all over
I'll
that.
let you off the Western.
Okay.
I've got a science fiction Western here somewhere.
Oh. That sounds great. Well, again, thank you so much, Gavin. This has been fun. We got to chat about so many different things. Thank you to everyone who could join us. Have a wonderful evening. And this is the part that always makes me laugh as I hit end stream